Last weekend, 3 homes hit the market between $1.1 and $1.6 million here in Short Hills, New Jersey, including one of my own listings. Every single home had offers due by Tuesday morning. And I met multiple qualified buyers who were serious and ready to move forward, who just weren't prepared for how fast and how competitive this market really is. Most of them were just starting their search and they made the same critical mistake. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to prepare before you step into an open house so that when you find the right home for you, you're actually in a position to win it. And stick with me because later in this video, I'm going to debunk one of the biggest myths I still see buyers falling for, especially in multiple offer situations. The buyers who win in this market aren't only the ones who offer the most, they're the ones who are really ready first. The biggest mistake I see, buyers are using the right data the wrong way. And at this price point, everyone's qualified. So the seller picks an offer that feels like a sure thing. Before you step into any open house, you should already have a lender who can update your pre-approval the same day, a clear understanding of your maximum number and your comfort number, a real estate attorney lined up. In New Jersey, this matters a lot. A strategy for terms, including flexible closing, limited contingencies, and a clean, simple offer structure. Because when offers are due on Tuesday morning, there is no time to figure this out after the fact. The buyers I met last weekend, they weren't losing because they didn't want the house. They were losing because they weren't ready to act immediately. And in this market, speed equals leverage. A lot of buyers are relying on stats that aren't specific enough to our market conditions. So when I prepare comparative sales for a buyer getting ready to make an offer, I will go back 12 months, just like any appraiser. But here's the thing that they tend to focus on. They tend to focus on the average, which is a great data point. It's very helpful, but I don't want you only comparing average list price to sale price data for an entire year. I want you tuning down to look at the homes that sold within 15 days. Those are the ones that really show you the stats, or the ones that are most important for homes that get a lot of attention the first weekend. In New Jersey, because we're still in such a seller's market, I can tell you from my listing as an example, the strategic play is to deliberately underprice a home to try and get as many buyers in the door as possible and eventually to get multiple offers to drive up the price. So for homes that sold within 15 days, we need to make sure that the stats you're looking at are really comparable to the house that you're trying to bid on. For example, in Short Hills last year, the average number of homes, let's see, in the last 12 months, 101 homes were on the market for up to 15 days. It was an average of 10 days on market and sold for an average of 9% over the asking price. But here's where that changes a little bit. I just took 4 examples. One example was on the market for 8 days. It sold 29% over the listing price. The second example was on the market for 14 days. It sold 18% above the list price. The third example was on the market for 10 days. It sold for 13% over the listing price. And the fourth one was on for 9 days and sold for 17% over the listing price. So you can see here how the average of 101 homes of 9% over the listing price, that doesn't really dictate the houses that are getting a lot of traffic that first weekend. So we really want to look at the sold data of homes that sold fast within 7 to 15 days. Not homes that were on the market for longer than that, or that started overpriced, or even outliers that can skew averages. For my listing in particular, we had 50 plus groups came through the open houses last weekend and another 25 plus private showings. So this tells you instantly that this is going to be a compressed timeline property, meaning that it will likely trade above the average metrics. And I can tell you that is true. Now, one of the buyers I worked with personally definitely took this 12-month average over list price to heart, but unfortunately, that average was not really applicable to this home. One of the buyers I met really stuck to that 12-month average over list price that I shared with him, but that average included homes that didn't get as much attention as my listing, and that's how they underbid without realizing it. And even if they had gotten the right number, there's a final piece that determines whether an offer actually gets accepted. In multiple offer situations, sellers aren't just picking the highest number, although that's very important. They're also picking the cleanest, safest, easiest deal on paper. What makes an offer stronger beyond the price is limiting contingencies, a strong deposit, flexible closing time, and clear intent. And this is where my guidance matters. For example, I spent over 3 hours helping the buyer who made an offer on my listing. We thought through their timeline. We discussed options of what they would do to the house in different periods of their plans for the property. We talked about aligning the offer with those future plans. We structured terms around their personal situation, including a discussion about a 1031 exchange. And all of these pieces are the difference between just submitting an offer and submitting a winning offer. At this level, everyone is serious and everyone is really qualified. So the deal goes to the buyer who can make the seller feel with their offer that they're taking the least amount of risk and they're going to encounter the least amount of friction. Something that the winning offer did that I think made a big difference is that although they were going to get a mortgage, they actually waived the mortgage contingency. This is an extremely strong term. So they had to show proof of funds for the full purchase price and reserve their right to get a mortgage. But it means that the appraisal was off the table. We don't have to worry as the sellers. We don't have to worry about the house appraising. It also means that once we finish negotiating home inspection, the deal is basically set to close because even if they don't get approved for their mortgage, they will have to contractually go through with the sale. They also put in a significant home inspection waiver, which always makes sellers feel better about the inspection process. And they put in an extremely quick closing. So they're closing in just over 3 weeks from being under contract. This term in itself means that they are prepared. They have already had all of these discussions with their lender. They know how quickly they can move. They know how quickly all the inspections have to happen to make that closing date go. But I can tell you, they, compared to the other offers, they really outshone the other offers on closing date. And for my particular sellers, which it's an estate, so the house is already empty, this was a very important term for them. So all of those things combined made a very obviously winning offer. Now, the buyers that I spoke to, there were 3 who were interested in working with me on this property and potentially the other 2 that came on the market at the same time. Only one of them made an offer, but the other 2, one of them really had no idea how quickly things were still moving. They were shocked to know that all 3 of them had offers due on Tuesday morning. And the reason for that is because every listing agent once we've had multiple offers due, they want to be under contract by that next weekend. We can't anticipate what other homes are going to come onto the market. And because you can cancel a deal with no penalty in New Jersey for any reason during attorney review, there's definitely some insecurity in the attorney review process. So everyone wants to be out of review and under contract by the end of the week before the weekend hits. So I would say they were a perfect example of what I'm talking about in the sense that not only do you need to figure out what home really appeals to you and that you can see yourself in, you also need to have someone that you can really discuss the market data with. You need to have a lender in place who can talk to you about how quickly they can move, what types of terms you can be flexible on. So this is where appraisal waivers would come in. Now, our winning offer, good example of actually waiving the mortgage contingency. I don't expect that from every buyer. Not everyone has cash to prove that they can make a full purchase. But when you do, boy, is that a strong term, especially if you're well qualified and you've already had this discussion with your lender. And in fact, most of the lenders I work with will do what's called a credit approval, or there are lots of different ways different lenders phrase this particular type of approval, but it basically means they've already put you through underwriting. So the risk of being denied a mortgage is almost null. It's not null, but it's almost null. So there are so many aspects, so many variables to being really prepared to make an offer like this. Now, my listing got 4 offers. The other 2 I was discussing each got 10 offers each. So you can see the type of demand that's still building here. Now I'd like to talk to you about one strategy buyers think gives them an edge in multiple offers, because it came up again last weekend. I still hear buyers think, or they come to me as the listing agent thinking that they're going to get a leg up by making an offer with me. And that just shows that they're really ignorant about how we as realtors have to act ethically. When I personally find out that I have my own buyer on a listing and I'm going to be receiving multiple offers, that means that the multiple offers in the guidelines, they won't be coming to me. They go directly to my broker so that I am in the same position as any other agent bringing a buyer to my listing. So I don't actually see the offers until I have submitted my own offer. That means there is no insider information to be passed along. It's such a fallacy when buyers think that that is a leg up. Now, I work with a lot of buyers on my own listings. I've closed I think I closed 5 last year. So 5 buyers on my own listings. It doesn't mean that I acted unethically. It means that I guided them with the data that I'm talking about and they listened. So I would really like to see buyers stop assuming that going directly to the listing agent will give them any kind of leg up.